world? It's your boy, Vic XL, riding dirty news and views. Let's talk about it. All right, man, this is something I'm so happy to announce. I'm happy to announce this. I love it when families can have some form of closure. All right, for all those who don't know, 2 people have been arrested in the murder of Jam Master Jay, a.k.a. Jason Mizell. All right, but let me bring you guys a little bit up to speed. All right, Jam Master Jay, who was born Jason Mizell, was shot and killed inside a music studio in Queens, New York on October the 30th, 2002. All right, he was 37 years old. On the day of his murder, 2 men reportedly entered the studio where Jay was playing video games in a lounge area located on the second floor of the studio. Basically, Jay was shot once in the head by a masked gunman. Another man in the studio was shot in the arm. The 2 men who fired the gunshots actually fled this scene. Jam Master Jay actually died on the scene. 4 men were in the studio at the time, but at that time, no one actually cooperated with the police. Actually, in 2017, there was someone who was considered a suspect, but no formal charges were actually brought to that actual person. So at that point in time, Jam Master Jay murder had become a cold case. All right, so let me give y'all these. A new development basically have been made yesterday in the 2002 Run DMC Jam Master Jay's case. All right, according to a report filed in the New York Times on Monday, the murder charges against 2 men who have been suspects in the legendary DJ's killing will be announced. Law enforcement officials told reporters that Ronald Washington and Carl Jordan Jr. were indicted on charges of murder while trafficking drugs. All right, the murder of Jam Master Jay has been long unsolved up until today. All right, up until today. Now, Washington, who is 56 years old, is already in prison for robbery. And Jordan, who is 36 years old, was arrested by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosions, ATF, for all those who don't know, and the New York Police Department on Sunday, which was yesterday. All right. Now, let me tell y'all how this thing is going down as of today. All right, a 10-count indictment was unsealed today. This very day, a 10-count indictment was unsealed, charging 2 men with Jam Master Jay's murder. According to the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Ronald Washington and Carl Jordan Jr. have been charged with 1 count of murder while engaged in narcotics trafficking and 1 count of firearm-related murder. All right, Jordan has also been charged with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute cocaine and 7 counts of cocaine distribution. All right, Jordan and Washington face a mandatory minimum amount sentencing of 20 years in prison and a maximum of life in prison to the death penalty. The U.S. Attorney Office also said that the investigation into Jam Master Jay's murder has unveiled details about the motives behind his death. All right, Jay's killing was allegedly a result in a previous acquisition of approximately 10 kilograms of cocaine from a narcotics supplier in the Midwest. The cocaine was allegedly supposed to be distributed in Maryland by Washington, Jordan, and other co-conspirators. Mizell, Jam Master Jay, had recently informed Washington that the defendant would not be involved in the distribution of the narcotics in Maryland, which perpetuated into the murder conspiracy. All right. Now, I guess I don't know what Jam Master Jay actually had to do with the purchase of the drugs, but maybe somehow, somewhere he changed the way they were to be distributed, and he didn't want Mr. Washington and Mr. Jordan involved in the distribution in the Midwest, and that led to them allegedly coming and taking his life. All right. The charges were announced during a press conference held by Seth D. Duquesne, acting United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Demont F. Shea, Commissioner of New York City Police Department, Darren McCormick, acting special agent in charge of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and William F. Sweeney Jr., the assistant director in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, New York Field Office, FBI, for those who don't know, this actual afternoon. All right, now, first and foremost, I got to say, I'm so happy that this situation is seeing some closure, because number one, Jam Master Jay is one of the elder statesmen of hip hop. Now, a lot of the newer generation, a lot of young cats might not know anything about Jam Master Jay, or they might just know of his murder. But let me give y'all a little just brief history of Jam Master Jay. All right, Jam Master Jay is one of the founding members of Run DMC, which was comprised of Reverend Run, a lot of y'all might know, or Run, Joseph Simmons, the brothers of the founder of Def Jam, Russell Simmons, and DMC, who is Daryl McDaniels, and Jam Master Jay. The trio became the very first hip-hop act, to achieve mainstream success in the 80s. Understand? They weren't the first act to have records on the radio, but they were definitely the first act to achieve mainstream success. They were the first hip-hop act to ever have a shoe endorsement. They had a shell-toe Adidas. They were the first hip-hop act to ever have a crossover record. In 1986, they had a crossover record with Aerosmith called Walk This Way. They were the first hip-hop act to have a clothing endorsement, because they also had their own line of Run DMC jogging suits or track suits by Adidas. They were actually, in 2009, Run DMC was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, making them only the second rap act to do so. The only act before them was actually Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who were nominated and inducted in 2007. All right, now, even more about Run DMC, about Jam Master Jay. Jam Master Jay not only was the group's original DJ, one of the founding members, but he also was one of the main producers for the group. He also collaborated on a lot of the writings for the group, and he probably was known to be the most stern businessman of the group Run DMC. Jam Master Jay, aside from being in Run DMC, he was an astute businessman. He's actually known for being one of the first people to discover 50 Cent. He actually launched the career of Onyx and a lot of other groups to come out of the East Coast. He actually started his own record label, JMJ Records. He had a distribution deal through Priority. He actually had a distribution deal at one point in time through Virgin, and he had a distribution deal, I think, at one point in time through Def Jam. He also, at the point of his death, he was actually executive producing a group based out of the South called Rusty Waters, which was comprised of his nephew. His son, Jam Master Jay Jr., now acts as fill-in DJ for the group Run DMC when they do tour. But Jam Master Jay is definitely a figurehead to hip-hop. And this situation that occurred in 2002 has definitely been a black eye on the hip-hop culture for years. So, again, I'm glad to announce, and I say it with my chest out. You understand me? I say it with my chest out. 2 men have been arrested for the murder of Run DMC's Jam Master Jay. And those 2 men go by the name of Ronald Washington, age 56, and Carl Jordan Jr., age 36. This was a murder conspiracy due to a failed drug deal in the Midwest. All right? Again, condolences to Jam Master Jay's family. Hopefully now they can have closure in their life. And all I got to say is all praise is due to the Almighty for bringing justice to this man's family. Okay? All right. It's your boy Vic XL. This is Ride Dirty News and Views. Let's talk about it. Y'all do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. That way y'all can be notified every time I drop some new news. All right? Y'all have